Hey everyone, and welcome to Already Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Star Trek, the original series, Season 2, Episode 14. It's called Wolf in the Fold. Full spoilers for the episode as always. First thing I want to say about this is I watched this like 30 minutes after watching the newest Star Trek Discovery. And talk about whiplash, but jumping between the new show with the big budget CG effects and the action and the excitement, and then jump to this, and the opening scene is like Kirk, Scotty and McCoy just sitting in this like belly dancing club, and they're just kind of casually chatting for like 5 minutes. Like the scene goes on for a while,
It does.
and I'm just like, man, times have changed. And this is not a criticism of this show specifically. It's just times have changed. Like the
Yeah, you'd
pacing
never
is
get
different.
away with this now.
Pacing is so different. But yeah, so the plot of this one is that they're on this planet. They're on it's another sort of shore leave type episode where they're taking some rest on this sort of luxury planet, and it's a planet known for its hospitality and not being violent, and everything's kind of nice and paradise-like, and everyone's friendly. And Scotty goes off with a belly dancer, and then dun dun dun, she shows up dead, and Scotty's standing there with a knife in his hand, but he can't remember what happened. So it becomes a murder investigation as to whether or not Scotty has murdered this belly dancer, and that's kind of where it goes. And there's maybe another murder or two, and then we, evidence piles up, we investigate it, and that's the idea for the episode. I usually ask Connor what he thinks, but I actually want to start with what my thought process with this one,
Okay.
because I think this is the first time in the history of Star Trek that for the first 20 minutes, 25 minutes of the 50-minute episode, I was like, this is going to be a shit one, this is shit. I was thinking it was shit the entire time. I was like, this is stupid. Belly dancers, what? Nothing ever good came from a belly dancer on a TV show, never. And then they get back up to the ship and start investigating it more with the computer, and then it became fantastic, and I loved everything it was doing. So I hate the first half, I loved the second half, and that has never happened in this show before.
I mean, I have to spoil the ending to give my opinion, but we do Jack the Ripper in Star Trek. How can I not love it?
Yeah, that stuff's great. That's what I love.
Yeah, exactly.
When they start when they get to the core of the idea is that Jack the Ripper was the way he was is because it's actually an entity that is immortal and feeds off fear, and that's what drove Jack the Ripper. It possessed whoever it was back in the day and did the killings, and then it moved, and then when humans got space travel and they started moving out into the galaxy, it moved as well, going through the cosmos.
And it has a hypnotic effect where it makes people around them forget that they saw him.
Yeah,
forget what happened.
Which is why Jack the Ripper never got caught. They basically retconned Jack the Ripper. That was basically what this episode did. And we hear about all these other like knife killings throughout the last 150 years in different planets.
And Spock's like, well, I mean, Jack the Ripper killed all these people in the most densely populated city on Earth. I mean, and no one saw anything. And it's like, well, this makes more sense.
And when they map out all these similar killings and all these different aliases that the killers had, like, oh, that's actually on one direction from Earth to where we are now. Like everything's been between this line essentially, and they're like. And all this stuff, I was like, yeah. And then the spirit of Jack the Ripper, that's what I'm going to call him, because, I mean, that's the famous name we know him. He infects the computer and he starts messing with the ship to scare people. And then we have the wacky kind of tactic here where McCoy drugs everyone on the ship to be happy, so they can't feel fear, because that's what he feeds on. So we have like everyone being just kind of drunk and high kind of acting.
It's kind of amazing.
And it's weird. You get the guy at the teleporter, like, controls just kind of like... Yeah, I'll get to it, Spock. Yeah, I'll get to it eventually.
That cracked me up. He's there, like, Kirk's like, widest beam, blast him out into space. Just disperse him. And the guy starts pressing the buttons, and then Kirk looks over and goes, Spock, you do it. And Spock literally just comes over and shoves him. I'm like, wow, man, come on. Bit uncalled for. And then he addressed it.
Yeah, and before as well, like, at one point he goes back, because he's possessing, like, the I don't know what his position was. He was the one sort of leading the investigation on the planet.
Yeah.
And like it goes back into him at one point, and he grabs like one of the female officers as a shield. Like, yeah, come closer, I'll kill her. But she's actually drugged up at this point, so she's just kind of smiling. And then when she gets pulled away, she's just kind of laughing. Like her and McCoy are just laughing about it. And even the way when McCoy pulls her away, he comes up and goes, "Hey, you could hurt someone with that thing," just all happy and smiley. The second half of this episode was full of fantastic and wonderfully dumb ideas. It was great. The first half of it, when it was on the planet and it was, oh, did Scotty kill this person? Oh, let's get the mystic person in to contact the dead. That stuff I hated. That stuff was just silly shit.
Yeah, but it was worth it as a concept. It was worth getting through that for the second half.
I think honestly, it's the setting, it's the way they go about the investigation in the first half that's really uninteresting. Because I feel like if you did this, like, I like the idea that, okay, you think one of the crew is a killer, or is potentially a killer based on what happens. But I think just the situation, the 5 to 10 minute scene at the start where they're just sitting talking about this planet and the belly dancer club, and then like all this debating with the guy and about, you know, oh, we've got all this evidence, yeah, but what about this? Like, there was a lot of jumping through hoops. But once, you know, the head honcho came in, like, okay, let's move this up to the ship. We've got computers that, you know, basically lie detectors, and let's go up there.
It's essentially a very elaborate polygraph test.
It is, yeah. But because I think that the first time the mystery got interesting to me is when the computer said, no, there's no traces of amnesia. Scotty's not got amnesia. That's not what's happening here. But he's telling the truth. He does not remember these things.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, well, that seems like a contradiction.
Yeah, it does, but then obviously they keep digging. Now, admittedly, I'm not going to suggest that they have to take a couple of leaps logically to get to their conclusions. Now, obviously, they hear the names, and they test through these names. Okay, what are these names? What are these words? What do they mean? And it's like, oh, well, the only connection is the different killers, and then it gets to Jack the Ripper, which everyone's heard of because he's Jack the Ripper. Nice to know that in 2150 or whatever this is, Jack the Ripper's still.
Hey, they still got Shakespeare. They're still gonna have Jack the Ripper.
Pretty not. Yeah. It says something to me that Jack the Ripper's much more interesting to me than Shakespeare. I
don't agree with that.
I don't want anyone to be killed, obviously, but Jack the Ripper's just a much more interesting figure to talk about than Shakespeare is to me. But what do you want? I'm a horror guy, and that's more up my alley.
I mean, there's plenty of horror sequences in some of Shakespeare's works.
Yeah, but they keep opening their mouths and talking bollocks, and it takes me out of it.
That's fair. I can't argue with that. I enjoy it, but I can't argue.
You had an entire debate with me on the comics podcast about how Bendis' characters all sound the same. Well, I've got another example for you, Mr. Connor, with William Shakespeare.
That's only because you can't decipher the language. They don't sound the same if you get into it.
It all sounds the same. They may as well be speaking French. Whatever.
You need subtitles for those. Is what
I need subtitles. And not just a subtitle of what they're saying. I need translate. I need modern English, please.
Yeah.
That'd be lovely. How did this turn into Shakespeare bashing?
Probably my fault that it turned into Shakespeare at all. Yeah.
Yeah. So no. But once we got to Jack the Ripper and it got to all this stuff and like, oh, we have to stay happy because the fear is what drives it. I mean, they deal with them quite quickly. They basically knock him out and just put him in the teleporter and then just blast him out into space.
Yeah, but the episode's not really about that. It's about, it's the investigation. It's the mystery, isn't it?
It is. And once they get up to the ship and once they start, like they're theorizing all these things, but it's the moment the computer says, other alias, Jack the Ripper, it's like, oh, okay, yeah. What are we doing here? And then from that point on, and all the theorizing of, how we get away with it and how it kept happening throughout space. I was like, okay, right. I like the insanity of this concept. It's just the build to get there was just. I think the first half is just a very typical dull Star Trek episode.
I agree. It's not like offensively bad.
Oh no, it's not. No.
It's watchable. It's just kind of boring.
Yeah.
But if you cut that down by 10 minutes.
I think part of the reason why the first half's boring because a lot of it's is this Scotty? Did he do it? And we know he didn't. Of course he didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I think it would have been more interesting if it hadn't been Scotty. If it had been just a
random crew
member.
Yeah. Because it could have been them. It could turn out to the other killer.
Yeah, but I'm sure Kirk would still have defended them because it's his crew member. So it would have, the episode would have played the same. You wouldn't have had Scotty's great acting stuff in up in the interrogation room.
Yeah, no, he does a good job in this actually.
Yeah.
I never knew he was from Aberdeen. He mentions that a few times in this one.
Yeah, makes sense.
Because Kirk and McCoy are like, no, on this planet you flash the lights in your table to clap.
Yeah.
he's buying the table like a loud drunken barbarian.
Yes, a classic Scotsman, as you might say.
Um, I've never banged a table to cheer for someone.
But
For the record.
you also don't get drunk, so you're not a very good Scotsman. Kind of a poor excuse of one.
Okay, I'm fine with that. It's funny actually. We don't actually see Sulu for most of the episode until he's getting drugged. So it's Kirk's on the bridge, and he gives him an order. He's like, "Yeah, Captain. Hey, I want." And he's just over to whoever's on the other side. It's not Chekhov, but someone else is in Chekhov's seat. And he's like, "Hey, I wonder what we're not supposed to be scared of." And he's just sort of swaying in his chair.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Yeah, it's just good. And
Small
obviously,
moment though, because they didn't need to have Sulu there at all. It's just
They
like,
didn't.
well, let's just have some fun with it.
I think it's almost a shame that Chekhov and Uhura are missing because I kind of wanted to see them beyond the happy
Yeah.
the happy chemicals.
Obviously, the best on the happy chemicals is McCoy, because obviously he's always so grumpy. So it's great to see him near the polar opposite.
He also refuses to take it at first. He's like, "Yeah, you take one for yourself, McCoy." He's like, "No, I think I'll stay clear, Jim." They're like, "No, that's an order." And he's like, "Well,
It's like, damn it.
got to be happy, not for this."
Yeah, he does not want to be happy, does he?
I like at the end though, like they're still kind of out of it, and Kirk's like, "Oh, how long will this take before it wears off?" He's like, 5 or 6 hours, give or take. He's like,
He's like, I gave them all a pretty big shot.
yeah, and Kirk's just like, "Well, we'll have the happy ship in the universe for about 5 or 6 hours. We'll get no work done, but for 5 or 6 hours, everyone's happy."
Yeah. Back half of this episode is really good and really fun, which kind of makes it worth it.
It does. I think overall we have a net gain. It's just that's why I wanted to open by saying it's just so weird that I was so down in this episode. Like, because normally in the first 5 minutes I can kind of tell if I'm going to hate the episode, and I'm almost always right. Like, this is the only time where it's ever spun me around and went, "No, you're actually going to like where this goes."
I think this is one of those where, if you put it into modern pacings, cut it down to the modern 40 minutes, you'd just cut out a lot of that opening chunk.
Yeah, you would. You'd speed through
And
that a bit more. Yeah,
you'd get that'd come down to you'd only get like 10 minutes of that opening section, and that would fix the whole episode.
it would. Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, and obviously Star Trek with its looking at issues and being forward thinking and morals. Obviously here we have Kirk demanding that Scotty get a fair shake and a fair trial, and he's not just assumed guilty, and he's making sure that they actually investigate it
It's
properly.
all about the justice system, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all about justice. Nothing super deep, but it's there, and it's kind of a weird mishmash of an episode in that sense. I mean, not only just in quality, because I'm talking about how I don't like the first half and like the second half, but just in the sense that, it's kind of like murder mystery, and it comes, it's about the justice system, and then it's, no, it's about Jack the Ripper, and it's this serious like entity that's going to kill us all, and then it becomes this goofy comedy where everyone's kind of like loopy and saying weird things. Like, it's a really weird mishmash of an episode with all the different set of tones and feelings that it does. And to be fair, in the second half they all work. It's just the first half where it's kind of like this is the boring tone part of the episode.
It is, and it's a shame. But overall, I'd come out and say, no, I enjoyed this on the whole.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I maybe could have taken without the theorizing that Scotty's a killer now because he hit his head really hard. And they even theorise that, technically the little explosion that caused that accident came from a female officer, so maybe he resents women now. And I'm like, this is a bit of a stretch, guys, come on.
Yeah, it is a bit of a stretch.
They're basically trying to do Mindhunter in Star Trek, before the FBI even started doing that stuff. And it's not working. They're just
Star Trek's always been ahead of the game. This time they just, the idea was in the right place, just missed the mark a little.
It's funny, actually, because we watched Mindhunter, and we won't spoil Mindhunter, but Mindhunter's set in the 70s, a Netflix show about how like the first people in the FBI who kind of start to profile the killers and try to understand psychopaths and people who commit multiple murders, mass murders, serial killers, that kind of thing. And it's one of the funny things is I never really realised before I watched that show that the term serial killer wasn't invented until the 70s. And it's one of these things where in this episode I was actually thinking about that and going, oh yeah, they're not calling Jack the Ripper a serial killer because that phrase didn't exist
It doesn't
yet.
exist, yeah.
But I would always call him a serial killer because that's
Of
what
course,
he is.
but
Yeah.
to them, they're just like, yo, is this someone who committed a string of murders?
Yeah, but in a sense, I mean, Star Trek's wrong in this case because, I mean, they should have had that term for centuries by this point.
Look, in Star Trek universe, that never happened. They never got to serial killer. That didn't happen in the 70s.
Did it not? I also like the subtle implication that the entity had to move away from Earth with space travel because Earth became a better place and it was harder to be corrupting and make people fear.
There was the hope of, okay, there's more out there beyond us. We can make the universe a better place, and it's like, so it had to find somewhere that could be scared a bit more.
Yeah, arguably, I mean, you could contradict that and say, because they bring up the point that this planet is a good target because everyone's so unassuming.
Yeah, but I think here they make the point of, like they don't even really have lawmen. They hire in lawmen from other
Sure.
planets, whereas Earth, you imagine they still had that stuff going on. I mean, they've got Starfleet, they've got all that.
There's still a system, there's still crime that happens, but yeah.
Yeah.
Even a utopia has the occasional incident.
Exactly.
So
Except this one, apparently, until you get Jack the Ripper.
until Jack the Ripper shows up to stab people. All right, well, there you go. That was an interesting concoction of an episode, but one that ultimately ended up being okay. So, and what's funny is last episode we've had two pretty decent ones in a row. We're due a bad one, and this started. I'm like, here it is. Here's the bad one. But then by the end, I'm like, no, that wasn't bad.
This avoided it again somehow.
So we have
we're really due something.
We've got a 3-episode streak. We are bound to get a stinker soon.
Yeah.
However,
well, I mean, next episode we're not.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Next episode is the Tribbles, so we got at least one more good one before we get to that stinker.
Yeah, can you imagine that? 4 in a row.
I don't know. So we'll be back next time with The Trouble with Tribbles, if I recall the title correctly. And let us know what you think of this one in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. It is worth mentioning there is an audio feed for these Star Trek reviews should you wish to get them that way. And if you just search Male Fuzz TV on your iTunes or your podcasting app and whatnot, you can find it that way. But yeah, so you go find them in that sense. Also remember, we're doing Star Trek Discovery. We actually just by the time this goes up publicly, we did the mid-season finale. So that's all up, ready to sort of.
We'll be back with the rest of that in January.
Yeah, that comes back January 7th, so our reviews will be going out as well, kind of as it's released at the time. So so check out that stuff, and yeah, we will see you next time. And we shouldn't miss any weeks with Star Trek, with this Star Trek, even though we have a very busy period, because we are planning on getting a few done in advance. But just in the off chance that we do end up missing a week, don't worry too much. It's just because it's a busy schedule. But we should be fine for at least the next couple of weeks. So that is us. Thank you very much once again for watching. Keep watching TV, guys. We'll see you next time.